Hi everyone, welcome to Book Talks with Miss Thomas. I'm Miss Thomas, and today you're not going to hear about books. Well, you're going to hear about the book, the most important book, the Bible, coming up. All right, so welcome. I was tagged, the Bible tag, by Erion and Prometheus at BookZealots. I will put their video down below. It's a really great channel because it's a mother and son channel, and you know I have sons, so I just think it's so nice to watch a mom and her son do the videos, and they're Christian booktubers, so they are usually talking about books, clean books, fun. It's a fun channel and I recommend them. So let me hop right into the tag. Question number 1, what is your favorite book of the Bible? And my first thought was Daniel, and then I thought, well, Revelation, because Daniel and Revelation are both books about prophecy. They go together in my mind. And then I thought, well, there's the Gospels. I mean, you know, what's not to like about the story of Jesus, the words straight from the mouth of Jesus. So the Gospels as well. But if I had to choose, I would say Daniel. And question number 2, what is your favorite Bible story? And my favorite Bible story is in the book of Daniel. I like the story with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego when, I want to say the bunny. If you're a VeggieTales person, you know, when they're told to bow to the bunny and they won't bow because they don't want to bow to the false god, because if you're an adult and you don't watch VeggieTales, but they don't want to bow to a false god because they only, you know, pray to their own God. And so they're thrown into the fire. And there's so many little nuggets in that Bible story that I love. I love the most obvious being that when they're in the fire, there's 3 of them, but the people watching saw 4. And so Jesus was right there in the fire with them. At least that's what I believe. And the other thing, there's a couple things in that story that are just so exciting to me. Another one is that when the men threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fire, when they opened the door, I can't remember, but they were killed by the fire. Just by being near the fire, they were killed. And yet, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were completely unharmed. And the thing I like best about that story is that it says they didn't even smell of smoke. And to me, I'm someone who smells of smoke. I need to work on that. That's a personal sin that I have to work on. But you know, nobody knows. You know, if I'm upset, the whole world has to hear about it. And so I need to work on that. You know, we need to work on not smelling of smoke. When things happen, they're God's will, God's in control, and we are in the palm of God's hand, and nothing can snatch us out, right? So why sit around going, oh, guess what's happening to me? Poor me, boo-hoo. I need to work on not smelling of smoke. So I can't take credit for that observation either. I did a study on Daniel years and years ago, and it was a Beth Moore study. And that was something that she pointed out for women, you know, that we shouldn't smell of smoke. And Beth Moore has come under some controversy in more recent years. This was a study I did years and years ago, but I still want to give credit where credit is due. Another question. Who is your favorite person in the Bible? Okay, I mean, obviously aside from Jesus, right? I'm going to go with Andrew because I did a Bible study and I think it was called 12 Ordinary Men. I'll put it in the description box. And it was MacArthur. And, you know, the Bible study teacher, who's a dear friend of mine, divided us into groups and said, like, each woman, I guess not groups, she put each woman in charge of one of the ordinary men, right? One of the apostles. And I did John. I guess at the time, John would have been my favorite because he was the youngest, you know, he's the one next to Jesus. He also wrote John's 1, 2, and 3, and you guessed it, Revelation, which is one of my favorite books. But I'm going to go with Andrew because the woman who did Andrew, when we did that study, she pointed out that the story, the parable, no, it's not even a parable, the story of the loaves of bread that were multiplied, the fish and the bread that were multiplied. You know, Jesus was teaching and there were all these people and there was not enough food to feed them. And everyone was thinking, what are we going to do? We have no food for these people. And it was Andrew who said, this child over here has some fish and some bread. And I just love that. I love to think about Andrew kicking around a ball or whatever, goofing off with the kids. And I just picture him as sort of like the class clown among the disciples. I could be wrong about that, but I like to think of Andrew as like childlike, playing with the kids and just really being such a man of outreach. And he was the one who volunteered the child's bread and fish. And I just, yay, anytime the Bible says that the kids matter, I say, yay, kids matter. I'm a teacher and I'm a mom. And I just think that we need to really remember that Jesus cares about kids, and kids are the next generation. And we complain so much about, kids these days and, this and that about the upcoming generation. But Andrew had faith in the kids and he was listening to the kids. And I think that's so important. So I'm going with Andrew. My favorite Bible verse, Jeremiah 29:11, I know the plans for you, declares the Lord. And in my translation, he declares it. And I love that he declares it. He doesn't just say, I know where you're headed. He says, I know the plans for you, declares the Lord. They are not plans to harm you, but to prosper you, plans to give you hope and a future. And I think of that so many times when bad things happen. It goes back to that thing about the plan, right? And God's in control. The thing about smelling like smoke, right? Why would I smell like smoke and complain about all the things that are going on in my life if they're part of God's plan? And I say that because that's my heart, but that's not always my behavior. So I do need to be clear that, I'm preaching to myself. So I love that God declares his plans over me and that, he's not here to harm me. The bad things that happen in my life, just like the good things that happen in my life, are part of God's plan, and God is good all the time. All the time, God is good. Okay, my favorite translation of the Bible. So if you saw the BookZealots video, and I recommend that you do, they're very clear that, they feel, Erion especially feels that the King James Bible is, the translation. And I respect her for putting her opinion out there. I found the Lord with the NIV Bible. I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school and I knew the New Testament. I knew the parts written in red, but I didn't really know much about the Old Testament. And I went to the store and just bought a Bible, and, I didn't really know what I was looking for. I doubt at the time I knew there were different translations out there. The store had the NIV. So I bought that and I read that and I studied that for years. And I later wound up in a Bible study. It was on John the Beloved, again, by Beth Moore. This was a long, long time ago. But that's where I found the word. And it's funny because when Beth Moore came under controversy, I asked a friend about it who, she has taught Beth Moore Bible studies. And I said, how do you feel about that now? And she said, God can do whatever God can do with whatever you give God. So, I learned about God through the NIV. I still love my NIV translation. It's the one I turn to the most. It's the one I think about the most. It's the one I read the most. And it's just the one that, the one with the worn pages, because I've had it for so long and it's just much loved. I then started hearing about the importance of the King James translation, how the King James translation is the closest to accurate, and that I should read that. So I bought a King James translation. I have 2 copies of the King James translation. I keep one in my car and one in the house. So I read King James when I can, but especially when I'm in my car and, I have 10 minutes, I'm waiting for something or there's distraction around me. I'm just really feeling confused sometimes when I'm reading the King James. And so I bought a New Living Translation. And I know that there are people who do not care for the New Living Translation. And I asked a leader at my church his thoughts on that. And he said that he would say the New Living Translation is really more of a New Living paraphrase, that he doesn't have a problem with the New Living Translation. He just disagrees with the term translation, that it's a paraphrase. and he recommended the ESV. And he said the ESV Bible is completely free. It was put together just out of a love of God and wanting to witness to God. And so there was no profit involved in the making of the ESV. And he recommends that one. I'm going to get my hands on an ESV. He said I could get a free one downloaded on my phone. I think he said through the Bible Gateway app. So I'm going to get that one. If I had to answer the question right now, I would say NIV, because that's the one where I learned about God. Right now, currently, I have at least 6 Bibles. I am someone who likes to look at all the different Bible translations and compare the different verses. And so I am fine with looking at the New Living Translation, because yes, I know it does leave things out. As my friend at church would say, it's more of a paraphrase, but it's still like, especially if I'm sitting in my car and I have 5 minutes and I just need a moment with the Lord, that's very helpful to me. And I do still say that there's value in that. But I'm going to get my hands on the ESV, and I guess I'd have to say NIV. Don't tell my pastor, because he's a King James guy. What is your favorite hymn, chorus, song, singer, and band that is Christian? Okay, this one is a loaded question because I'm very involved in the music ministry at my church. Sometimes I post videos where I sang at church, if you're interested in that. I love Brendan Lake. Recently, I'm really liking to sing. I enjoy singing his song Gratitude. The Commission, I can't think of the group, but go tell the world about me. I think that's a beautiful song. But I have to say, my answer to the question, if I had to pick an absolute favorite Christian song, is probably one of the very first Christian songs I ever heard that really resonated with me. And when I was baptized, which was an adult, it was fairly recent. It was during the pandemic, actually. I was baptized during the pandemic in the hot tub outside of my house, So it was, we didn't have the heat on, but it was the pandemic, so we couldn't go to the church and do it. And I wanted to sing for my baptism the song that most resonated with me when I was really seeking out the Lord. And many of you may not know this song, but I highly recommend that you sit down and really have a good listen to it. And that is The Awakening by Sarah Groves. And I love that song because it just speaks to me. It tells me everything I need to know about why I believe. And Sarah Groves actually said that she wrote that song when she was asked about, her testimony. And after she tried to talk to somebody about why she believes in Jesus, she just felt like, oh, she really blew it. And so she sat down and she wrote this song, and that's what she wishes she had said. So I'll give you just a sense of it. I'll sing the first few things. It's dress down your pretty faith, give me something more. Leave out the thee and thou and speak to me now. Speak to my pain and confusion. Speak to my fear and my pride. Speak to the part of me that knows I'm something deep down inside. And I get choked up when I hear that song because, I teach teenagers, and sometimes, and I'm in a public school, so I have to be very careful what I say and what I don't say. And sometimes I just want to go up to teenagers and say, don't you know that you're something deep down inside? Do you have any idea how important you are, that you are made in the image of the God of the universe, that you're the child of the King, and that matters? It matters so much. For me personally, that song, hey, you matter, you're my baby girl, you're made in my image, you're my kid. That song just says it all for me. And when there was a woman at my church, an elderly woman, and her husband died, and she played the piano, and she was singing, she was seeming a bit sad, not quite as active as before because she was grieving. I had never sung in front of people before in church. I'd sung in like plays and things, but never by myself. I'd never sung solo. And because she was grieving and I was about to get baptized within the next few months, I said to her, hey, would you do me a favor? Would you play the piano for this song? I really want to sing this song for the people at church as part of my being baptized. I want it to be part of my testimony. And so she did. And I actually wrote Sarah Groves. I found Sarah Groves on the internet and I said, I'd really like to sing this song, but I don't have the music available. Could you please provide the music? And she did, or somebody that works for her did, but I got a response and I got the musical score, the music notes to give the friend who played the piano. So that song is just hugely beautiful to me. It's something that's very personal and important to me. And it has a lot to do with my walk with the Lord and why I believe what I believe. And it's just something I wish I could say to everybody. You know, I want to speak to the part of you that knows you're something deep down inside. And I want to tell you what that is. Another song that would be a major part of my my early walk with the Lord was Why by Nicole Nordeman. I highly recommend you sit down and listen to that one too. And it's just a beautiful song. And I won't say any more about that one because you have to hear it from Nicole Nordeman. If you haven't heard that one, Why would be at the top of my list. What is your favorite Christian movie? Okay, little tiny Miss Thomas as a child would definitely be The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I read the whole Chronicles of Narnia as a little girl. Love The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And when the movie came out in like the more modern, I do remember the one when I was little, there was one. But when the Disney version came out, you know, say what you want about Disney, but I love that movie. I think it was really well done. And a friend of mine told me that now there's a play at the Bible Museum. And so we're thinking about maybe going to see that. Another movie that I have to tell you, I'll try to find the picture if I can, but this really dates me. But if you are within my season, if you're seasoned like me and you remember Chips, Eric Estrada was the police officer in Chips. He's a Christian and he's done some films of his own. And he actually came to our church to show a film. And so I didn't know that he was invited. I just knew the church was showing a movie. And so I went with my family to see this movie. And at the end of the movie, Eric Estrada turned around and he was sitting right in front of me and I couldn't believe it. I just about fell out of my chair. And a friend of mine that was in the church, she said, if you could have seen your face, it was precious, because I was sitting there watching the whole movie like 2 inches from Eric Estrada. And if you're young, you're probably like, Erica, who? But let me tell you, I now own, I think, all of his Christian movies. But the one that we saw was called, drumroll please, Uncommon. And that one especially, again, as a high school teacher, and now we have the Alice drills where we have to prepare for school shooters and we have to talk to the kids about what would we do if there's a school shooter. You know, it's just heartbreaking. And in that movie, Uncommon, there was a teenage boy who was in school with his teenage brother. And he survived a school shooter, but his brother did not. And his brother was a Christian and he wasn't. And so he was trying to understand his brother after the brother died during the school shooting. And he, starts to really believe in the Bible. He starts to really try to understand the Bible because he's trying to understand his brother, I think. But he finds faith in God as a result of all this. And Eric Estrada plays the janitor. And I think it's been a few years. I mean, if I can find the picture, and I have to ask my son's permission because I had my son's picture taken with Eric Estrada. And now he's like the same age as Prometheus on BookZealots. So it was a good maybe 15 or more years ago. But if I remember correctly, he wanted to have a play or some sort of outreach about the Bible at his public school. and there was pushback. And it was a very, very good movie, and I own it. I highly recommend it. And it was just a funny memory too, and one that I'll never forget. I actually sat next to Eric Estrada, or actually physically right behind him during a movie. And when he turned around, whoa! I was shocked. Another movie I will mention briefly, just because it's a winner with the whole family, is Where Hope Grows. That's one that everyone in the family liked. We watched that together. And that's the story of this guy. He's a baseball player, and he's, lost his career and becomes an alcoholic. And he goes to the grocery store and he makes friends with this guy that works in the produce section, and he calls him Produce. And I think the guy has Down syndrome, and he's always trying to witness to this baseball player. He's always trying to talk to him about God. And the baseball player's like, no, he doesn't want any part of that. He's very angry, wrapped up in his destruction, his self-destruction. And he has a teenage daughter who's headed down the wrong path. And this guy, Produce, just really tries to be a light in their lives. And it's just a very beautiful movie. So I would recommend Where Hope Grows as well. Okay, who is your favorite speaker or preacher? Again, when I very first started seeking the Lord, maybe 20 years ago, some friends of mine, we all would go to Beth Moore studies, and we referred to ourselves as the Beth Morons. I did go to a good many Beth Moore studies, back in the day, and that's where I found the Lord. And that's where I really started to read the Bible for myself and understand the Bible. I guess more recently, I did attend a Bible study on the Sermon on the Mount, and the author's name was Jen Wilkes. It was Jen W. And she did a really good study on Sermon on the Mount. And I loved that study. And she is actually speaking at a Bible conference coming up in, I think, Indianapolis over the summer in June. And I saw that and I was like, that's pretty interesting. My friend and I are bouncing around the idea of going there. But I don't know, it's pretty far away. We'd have to either fly, or I think it'd be like a 10-hour drive. So I don't know. But that particular woman, I really liked her Bible study on the Sermon on the Mount. And she pulled so many different Bible books, really like minuscule Old Testament books that she tied in. And I just thought that was so cool. I really enjoyed her study. And she was probably the one that really got me comparing different translations. When I did her study on Sermon on the Mount, I really enjoyed all the different translations. So hopefully I'll find that. I'll put it up on the screen if I can, and you can see for yourself. That was a great Bible study. And I thought she was a fantastic speaker on the Word of God. Who is your favorite fiction and nonfiction Christian author? Okay, so while we're on the subject of Bible studies, I really like Dr. Gary Inrig. And the ladies at our church, we went through like a Dr. Gary Inrig thing. It was like one study after another. We started with Judges, the book of Judges, and that's one I didn't know a whole lot about. So I enjoyed that one the best, I think, because I learned the most. And yet, there was so much in that book, in the book of Judges, that I could relate to. There was like some real sin going on, even though it's the Old Testament. I mean, wow, you think we're messed up. They lived in some pretty destructive times. There were some pretty horrible things going on there. And so to see that they had to struggle with some of the things that we struggle with, and maybe different things too, but it was just very interesting to me. And then also, I remember the fear that, especially the one guy, I can't remember who, but I remember in the book of Judges, they didn't want to light some sort of fire, and so they waited until night. And I remember one of the women in the study saying, when do you think fire is going to be more visible, during the day or the night? And I thought that was funny, but I laughed during the study, but secretly I did think, I understand that fear. I understand, especially being in a public school, sometimes I'm afraid to speak up and say this is what the Bible says. So I could really relate to the book of Judges, and I appreciate Dr. Gary Inrig. I think think he writes some good Bible studies. My favorite fiction author would be, if you haven't watched the video, I did make this video where I went on and on about Carrie Stewart Parks. I think she is fantastic. I like her mysteries. My favorite mystery by Carrie Stewart Park would be Fragments of Fear. So that was a really good book, and I did review it. You can find that. I also like Colleen Coble. They're sort of the same vein. They write really like mind-bending kind of mysteries, but they are Christians. And so I like mysteries that are Christian. Oh, another one that I really like is C.C. Warren's. That's not an author, though. That's a husband and wife team, C.C. Warren's. I'd have to say Stacy, actually, Wanderings with Stacy. I think that's the name of her channel. Stacy recommended C.C. Warren's on her channel, and I was so impressed. So far, all the books I've read by C.C. Warren's, I've loved. They're creepy, though. You know, they're real scary mysteries. But I buddy read with Chrissie at Chrissie's Purple Library, Firefly Diaries, and that was fantastic. That was an excellent book. It made it as one of my best books of the year. So I'd have to say C.C. Warren's is another fiction Christian author that I like. Yes, I like them. So it'd be grammatically correct to say still I like them because it's a husband and wife. Okay, it's time to tag some people. So let me tag Chrissie at Chrissie's Purple Library because, like I say, I did that buddy read with her, and Chrissie works in IT. And I could tell that before I even heard her say that on her channel. Her editing is unbelievable. The way she does her videos are just so funny. And Amanda at Book Lover Amanda. These are some women that love the Lord, and they will tell you that in their videos. And their videos are really good and engaging. I would also like to tag Katie at Paperbacks and Ponytails. Katie is, really wonderful booktuber. She also has a channel where she talks about Bible journaling. And because of Katie and her channel, I've gotten interested in Bible journaling. So I want to talk about Katie. I want to have her do the tag. I can't wait to hear your answers, Katie. Sky is one that I haven't been in touch with lately. I've watched Sky's channel, and then I think she changed the name of either her channel or her Instagram. And so I've sort of fallen out of touch, but I love Sky's channel. Read for the Sky, highly recommend. And I know she's a girl that loves Jesus. So I would like to hear your answers, Sky, as well. Last but not least, another member of the BookTube community among us who is also an author. And so I definitely want to hear from Christy A. Cole. All right, so that's my Bible tag. Thanks so much for listening. I hope if you haven't been tagged and you want to do the tag, consider yourself tagged. Please just go ahead and do it, because any opportunity to talk about the Bible is an opportunity that is not one we want to pass up, right? One more. I need to tag Kelly from Kelly Reads a Lot because she's just so sweet. All right. Have I talked you to death yet? Now I'm done.